Hello, students. Good morning. Today in this video, we are going to learn the lesson globalization. This is part 4. In the previous video, I told you about trade barriers. Nothing but putting the restrictions on the countries in order to control the MNC companies. In order to control the MNC companies, putting trade barriers on the company is only the way. But by putting barriers, not only the positive, maximum negative results are receiving by the countries. That's why suppose by putting barriers, which country is imposing barriers, that country is incurring loss. Because every country which is coming to our India is going one by one from our India. And that's why what steps we have to take. So putting barriers is also not complete, not 100% correct in order to increase the globalization. So what we have to do? We know we have to work hard for fair globalization. Fair globalization. Fair globalization is the only way in order to increase the globalization and to do justice to all the countries. How fair globalization is giving justice to all, and first we have to know what is the meaning of fair globalization. Fair globalization is nothing but every country should be benefited by which methods we are going to implement in globalization. That methods are collectively called fair globalization. So by the fair globalization, every country is getting benefits. And if we see what are under fair globalization, one is government has to play key role in encouraging the local industries which are able to compete with MNC companies. And number two, WTO also wanted to work hard. WTO also has to play a clear key role in encouraging all the poor countries, developing countries, in order to compete with developed nations. It means it has to increase technology, education, information, broadcasting services, and other aspects in the poor countries. And in the same way, we have to take the fair globalization. Fair globalization is explaining which country is receiving the MNC company. That country, it means the guest and the host, both countries are able to get benefit. That is only to be called fair globalization. It means present globalization method is wrong. So what are the demerits we have to see? Poor countries also wanted to increase their IT and techniques in manufacturing all the items. And how present globalization is different from fair globalization, we are going to understand. Present globalization method is comprising some demerits. Example, it is favor to rich countries, unfavor to poor countries. By welcoming globalization methods, some countries are getting gain, okay, no problem, and some other countries are incurring loss. And in this globalization, some countries are using the poor countries and developing countries as the raw material supplying countries only. And one more loss also we have observed in the case of Ford Motors and Mahindra and Mahindra company. In the previous videos we saw, whenever the MNC company Ford Motors entered in our India, automatically it affected negatively on Mahindra and Mahindra company. The same way, one more company, edible oil supplying company in our India, Parag Foods, which was successfully going on. And whenever the Cargill Foods, one American MNC company, collaborated with Parag Foods. Automatically, the Cargill Foods, American edible oil company Cargill Foods, are slowly increasing, and which is negatively resulted towards against the Parag Foods. Same way, one more example we told you. Ravi was an industrialist owner who established a capacitors factory at Hosur in Tamil Nadu, and he had been running the industry successfully by establishing number of branches in 1992. But whenever the India had taken an agreement with WTO and allowed free trade by welcoming MNCs. So MNCs also producing same capacitors which were earlierly produced by Ravi. That's why the present MNC companies capacitors are successfully, they are decreasing the Ravi's capacitors. As a result, Ravi's one by one branches are closed, and now one or two branches are only running. It means by the heavy competition of MNC company, local company may be survived, may not be survived. It means we have to not to get any sort of fear about MNC company. It means one side in the same platform, one side local company, one side MNC company, both company items are purchasing by the people. To create this situation, what we have to do? So, which type of technology is showing existing by MNC companies? Same technology, same modern methods should be implemented in the local company also by developing and the underdeveloped economies. It means the fair globalization is explaining what for us chances for all the countries. Number one important point, WTO wanted to play a key role in giving benefits of globalization to all countries. And number three, every country's governments wanted to strengthen the country's information technology and education literacy percentages, modern techniques, methods should be implemented. And number four, they have to take training from other countries. And number five, the developing countries, underdeveloped countries, raw materials also should be given a proper value. Presently, developed countries came to the developing countries and using the raw material, producing articles, establishing their companies in the developing countries, and ultimately profit is taken by developed countries. It means this system is making developed country, it means rich country into very rich, poor country into very poor. So we have to stop the system, because globalization is in a position to provide benefits for all countries. That is fair globalization. It means in future, definitely by the struggle, already struggle was began by many poor countries, developing countries in the world for getting equivalent share in their economy in the worldwide market. That's why now some countries, some developed countries have no raw materials. That's why definitely they are bringing the raw material from which countries they have to provide, they have to take the responsibility of developing the poor countries also. And the same way, distributing the technology, educational values, and implementing the industries, implementing the modern methods. It means all type of benefits we have to extend to the poor countries and developing countries also. And that's why government to WTO, all the countries governments and WTO and other international trade organizations wanted to think about this. And if all countries are benefited by the globalization, suppose there is no negative benefit, negative result by globalization, every country welcoming the globalization, and by this method all countries are easy to develop, and it is better to give benefits equally to all the countries, then automatically there may be international peace, international cooperation should be existed in among all the countries in the world, and it is necessary in order to decrease the economical imbalances between the rich and poor countries. Thank you.